Hey all, welcome to another episode of Not For Nothing. I find myself in Columbus, Ohio for this episode. I got there a few days early. We were going to be attending the Hell City Tattoo Convention, and I figured what a better time to talk to a fellow named DURB Morison, who is, DURB's a legend in the business, probably putting on one of the best conventions in the nation. And I say that with no hesitation whatsoever. It really is one of those conventions that changed the way I think and my participation in shows in general. This particular one, like I said, I worked with Jimmy Litwalk, so it was a lot of fun hooking back up with him. But make a long story short, I watched those guys load in on, I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday. We went back to Red Tree, which is DURB's gallery in Columbus, Ohio, and we did a little bit of a sit-down. We go into a little bit of DURB's backstory, but it is predominantly about Hell City. And in all honesty, I'm not going to take anything away from it. DURB had some great things to say. He's incredibly well-spoken and incredibly intelligent when it comes to this kind of stuff, so I'm going to let him speak for himself. So we'll get to that. But I do want you guys to be aware that in a couple of days, I'm also going to drop another video. And it's going to be probably Jimmy Litwalk and myself, maybe one other person, and we're going to be doing our breakdown of the convention, what we thought, our takeaways from the weekend. It's going to be some stuff that I think you're going to find interesting. We're also going to go into a breakdown of what kind of gear we bring to shows, like how we pack. Are we flying to the show? Are we driving to the show? How much shit should you bring? What should you be expected to bring? A bunch of different stuff like that. This is going to be a bit more educational. These are going to be videos that I'm going to drop probably a couple of days after the main video drops or a day after. I'm not 100% sure. Working all this out still. Please bear with me. Like everything on this channel, it is a learning experience. I'm doing everything myself, so it really comes down to what I'm capable of actually pulling off. So that's just a heads up. But be prepared to hear something about it, and it will be airing on the channel within a day or two. In the meantime, let's get to the interview. I hope you guys enjoy it. Like and subscribe. I'll see you when I see you. Okay.
Good thing is we know each other long enough.
I was going to say, I don't think it's going to be that bad.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Not For Nothing. I am in Columbus, Ohio, and I am visiting with a very good old friend, DURB. I'm going to let you do a quick introduction, who you are, how long you've been working.
Well, first of all, welcome to Columbus, Ohio. Welcome to Red Tree Tattoo Gallery here. We've known each other for kind of decades now.
Yeah, I want to say, so I've been tattooing 31 years?
Yeah, I'm going on 30.
You're more than me. You're like 34. Yeah, 31.
Coming up on 35.
I think I'm 32 now this year. I don't remember, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've been tattooing longer than me. And it's funny, when I first met you, I didn't realize how long you've been tattooing. Yeah. Because you're also 4 years younger than I am.
I'm 51.
Yeah, so you're 4 years
So I started tattooing, when I was 13 years old, believe it or not. I started doing a bunch of like hand poke tattoos on like skateboard, punk rock friends of mine and things like that. And then by the time, I saved up a little bit of money from tattooing my friends, $20 here and there, that I saved up enough to order one of the old Spalding and Rogers kits.
Okay, so you started tattooing when you were technically 13.
Yes.
How old were you when you actually got a kit?
I was around 16 by that time.
Okay, so you were kind of
almost... Yeah, so I was dabbling with the hand poke stuff from like 13 to 15, and I was always an artist. And then when I was around 15, I started being like, I need to start charging $20-25. So I was actually
you were 15.
Yeah. So I was like, getting pretty good with the hand poke.
Like, like very much into, getting ahead, like being
exactly.
This young man.
So 15, I was actually saving for my first like professional equipment and stuff like that. And it was one of the old Spalding Rogers that I had the landlord from my apartment building that we were all like, because we were a bunch of degenerate kids, he ordered it for us.
Oh shit!
So yeah.
So were you? Did you have like a home life? Were you with your parents?
No, actually, I kind of grew up between both parents.
Okay.
So around 16, 17 is when I actually moved out.
Okay. Yeah. So you've been pretty much like, you've been riding the ragged edge.
Yeah,
a good chunk of your life.
Yeah, but it also makes you proactive. So I was like, I got to make this happen. We're kind of like, back then people don't have as much faith in you with tattooing because...
Well, back then it wasn't even a thing.
It was like criminal. It was taboo. It was bikerish. It was everything in people's eyes. So, you had to kind of like work through that. And
now this was in Columbus?
This is in Newark, Ohio.
In Newark.
So it's like 30 minutes from here is Newark, where I grew up. Yeah. And then I moved to Columbus when I started professionally tattooing, like pretty much right out of high school.
Okay.
So I went pro for like I mean, literally right after high school.
So no
out.
apprenticeship or nothing.
No former apprenticeship or anything like that, but I did learn from Tim Miller. Once I got under his wing in his shop, I started learning a lot more.
That kind of sets things.
I learned a lot from Sailor Moses.
Oh yeah,
the legendary Sailor Moses.
Yeah, he was in
Biloxi, Mississippi.
Okay, yeah.
So when I traveled, you may remember Dean DeKine.
Yeah.
So Dean DeKine.
Dude, these are fucking names. Man.
This is history, man. This is a part of our history.
Know. Yeah, exactly.
So I moved to California with Dean DeKine right when I was like 19. So I tattooed for Tim Miller from like 18 to 19.
Okay.
Moved to Palm Springs, California with Dean DeKine. Then we moved to Anaheim, and then Huntington Beach, and then that's when I went with Sailor Moses. The funny thing is I thought I knew what the hell I was doing when I went to tattoo for Sailor Moses, and he proved I didn't know shit, man.
You know, it's funny. I had no idea about any of this.
Yeah.
Like it's funny. For as long as I've known you mainly through the convention.
Yeah.
And
that's how
through you know, the fact is you were a very well spoken, educated guy. I would have never guessed that you had that kind of a lineage as far as like hooking up with. I mean, Dean DeKine. Yeah, because you guys are both of a similar mindset, especially in the way you're tattooing and stuff like that. And but yeah, Moses is like no joke.
Dean kind of appealed to me, you know, because of his artwork back then. He was doing like Gaitchison looking work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there weren't many people that could like replicate that style.
Right.
So when he asked me to move to Anaheim and to Palm Springs originally, we went through South Dakota.
Oh shit!
So we packed all of our stuff up in this truck. We had a van behind it, and we went to South Dakota. That's where I met Sailor Moses.
Was it a convention or?
It was like, well, in Sturgis, people will rent out like their storefronts.
Right, exactly.
They'll clear out their storefronts and let all the tattoo shops take over.
Judy Parker still does that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing. Brian Everett, Mike Siderio, all those guys.
Yeah,
back
those
then,
are
Jack Rudy.
Some legit fucking names.
Yeah. So those are some of the guys that I met when I was like 19 in South Dakota, worked for Moses because they were all buddies. So it was this wild new life for me where like I'd worked really hard tattooing and just going, working past people's like insecurities about me tattooing and concerns to really turning it into a career. And I think at that moment when I moved out of Columbus and started getting exposed to the industry and meeting Brian Everett, Jack Rudy, all those guys way back then and working for Moses, that's when tattooing opened up, not just to like tattooing, but to the community, the industry.
Yeah, it was.
That's when I became aware of it.
It was smaller. It was a bit cliquey in its own sense, but smaller. So it wasn't, and
way smaller, man.
And it only took a phone call or like an introduction to get into like another group of people.
Yeah. So back then it was much more of a, like I would say, an intimate tattoo industry. We all knew each other. It was very small. The magazines were a big thing back then, where you could see who was who.
Yeah, exactly.
In the shops. I mean, it was way more intimate back then. I liked it that we were a part of that part of the generation, and that we've watched it become popular because we were part of that last generation that kind of like struggled to get tattooing accepted.
Well,
looked at as a professional artist.
It's true. It's like I don't look at it as trying to get accepted because I really don't care. I think that I like the fact that it was I don't want to call it outlaw, but that it was a bit looked down upon.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Even from the art standpoint, I think that artists were we're always been artists, but we always had our own little group of people that we attracted, so it wasn't a big deal to not really be accepted by the masses.
Yeah.
It wasn't until it started to grow, and then you got guys like Guy and whatnot that are getting into it that they're not happy with just being a tattooer. They're looking to grow as an artist.
And some of those are the ones that showed that we are fine artists as well.
Which
is a good thing too, like for tattoo conventions, which you're in town for Hell City Tattoo Fest this weekend. The Fine Art Gallery there, over the years, you've done shows in there, you've done scratch art.
We did my book release.
Or you did a book release. Yeah,
that was one of the most amazing.
And your model.
Yeah, we did like a year or two, it was a year later? Yeah, a year later we did the toy from Kid Robot.
Yeah,
it was like incredible.
So the fine art aspect of like conventions is like, there was a day when tattoo artists were traveling with like 10 paintings because we wanted to show that we were like artists off the skin and that we were like fine artists to be taken seriously.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
just
I mean, I don't want to say that Hell City was one of the first because I know it wasn't one of the first ones with an actual
I think
art
Paul,
show.
some of Paul's old shows.
Yeah. So how far does Hell City? We're kind of jumping around because it's hard not to talk about Hell City because it is such a pinnacle of your entire career life.
Yeah, it's a big.
When did you start Hell City?
2002.
All right, so it was after.
Yeah. So Paul, with Paul shows and stuff like that. Paul kind of like didn't coach me along, but he's like kind of told me things to do, like DURB, don't tattoo at your own show, you'll go crazy. You know, because there's so much. And I was watching him at Tattoo the Earth, and he kept getting interrupted.
Yeah,
you know, he kept working. He was doing collaborative tattoo after collaborative tattoo.
Yeah, like they were all bouncing around.
And Art Fusion was growing and things like that. Those, to me, those were really exciting times.
Well, Art Fusion was cool because it was introducing completely different styles. A, completely different personalities.
Yeah.
B, although I will admit back then it was kind of a like-minded individual that did Tattoo the Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, Tintin, Philip Liu.
Yeah, exactly. And those guys are just... Like, I can't say... Like, I think the Tattoo Fusion, and I'm going to have a talk with Paul about this, too. The Art Fusion project, I think it started with him and Philip. Because they were the
Philip
ones...
and Guy, I think.
Yeah.
Or no,
but even
I think it was just those two.
And I want to say it was in Switzerland where they would kind of work together.
Yeah.
But then when they did the first Tattoo the Earth, where he went out on tour with all those bands... Philip was there, Bernie was there, Tintin.
Yeah.
I don't know if Tintin ever did those. But that was where they would just work out of
Bernie
a bus.
was part of it.
And they would just go hog wild on some poor bastard, you know, just do a sleeve in an evening. You know, it was crazy.
That was the show where I asked Paul, I was like, can I bring, you know, with all due respect, I was like, can I bring Art Fusion to Hell City?
Right.
Because I don't want to just like do
just
an imitation or
because
like rip a
that was
style
happening too. The second it got popular
man.
enough, everybody did these collaborations, and it was kind of like.
So the respect for the industry and the respect kind of like for the forefathers of what's going on now, I thought that asking Paul permission to bring it to Hell City was...
Which makes sense.
Yeah, so he gave me his graces, and we've had Art Fusion every year there. And Paul comes too, so...
Nice.
No, it's been amazing, man.
All right, well, so before getting back more into Hell City, you're growing up. How much time did you spend with Sailor Moses down in...
I was only there for like 4.5 months.
So it was a short period.
It was a short period, but there's some funny stories. Because when I was tattooing for Moses, I thought I knew everything. I didn't think I knew everything, but I thought I had a grasp on what the hell was going on with tattooing. 19.
It was so that's because you.
At that point, I was like
young.
20. Yeah, 20, almost 21. So I made him 100 5-liners that he was gonna love. In my mind, he's like, these are gonna be the best needles. I made them all. These are gonna be the tightest 5-liners in the world. He's gonna love them. They didn't push any pigment. No. They're just so tight.
You bring the solder all the way to the bottom. Yeah.
And he was really pissed because he had like 100 needles he couldn't work with. I think he's working on a back piece.
Oh, and you went like and actually made up a whole bunch of needles.
I made like 100. So I made him all these like really tight 5-liners. He went to work with them and none of them worked. None of them would carry pigment at all, and he ended up getting really pissed. But the thing with Moses, he would take you afterwards and really teach you and be like, this is how needles work, man. You have to have a gap in them to carry the
so he took you under just out of like just because you
met me at Sturgis. He saw me at Sturgis. I worked really hard. Dean brought me there, so I wanted to represent. So I worked really hard for Moses. I think he liked my energy because I was kind of like a rebellious wild kid.
Did you have a reputation growing up in Ohio, or were you in like the whole punk rock scene?
Yeah, I was more into the like punk rock and hardcore music scene, and that's when I first started coming to Columbus, when I was 13 years old, and going to like Dead Milkmen at the Newport, like different little punk shows and stuff like that. And through like the music scene and skateboarding and the punk scene, that's what influenced me to start tattooing my own body and tattooing myself.
Do you have any of the original? Well, it looks like you.
I've covered a lot of them. Guys cover stuff. I've had stuff lasered off too to get better quality because it wasn't the best.
No, but I didn't focus on it, so much.
Yeah, right. So being a part of that generation, it just kind of naturally attracted me. And being like a rebellious kid, a skateboarder, and a punk rock, that art form. In the rebellious side of it at that point, at that age, is what really attracted me.
Right.
But once it gets deeper into that, and you start realizing the true art behind tattooing, the history, and how it affects people's lives, and then you get into the community and the industry.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about any of that when I was,
So it's funny, somebody from your day and age, having been in it as long as you have, it's kind of interesting to see how well educated you are in the things the people you've hung around with all this time, and the fact that you are trying to push it to that next level.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people I think don't, especially when it comes to conventions, because conventions it's all about making the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you've managed to do something that's very heavily art influenced, as well as put on a really good show.
Yeah.
That fucking makes money.
Well, that's one of the things is like when I first did Hell City, and everybody could tell the difference in Hell City when it first came.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, there's a heavy, focus on the art and the caliber of artists, but the focus on the artists as well.
Right.
I've done so many shows before I even put my own show together where I'm like, I going to get a trash can?
Yeah.
When they hooking up electric, and it's
Yeah.
like 12:30.
Well, we were talking about how shows start later now, as opposed to their first thing on Friday. And
On
it's
Fridays,
it's aggravating being an artist who's gone from one side of the country to the other, and you don't get to start
Half your
tattooing
day's
until
gone.
5 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
I like still keeping Hell City opening at noon, even on Fridays.
Yeah,
I haven't a compromise to 4 p.m. opening.
Yeah, but nobody has to be tattooing. The booth should be set
People
up.
are still
obviously.
settling in.
Yeah.
Fridays, as far as a promoter, even an artist setting up, like you're still kind of settling in and getting your things where you need them and stuff like that. And I think it's important to do that before, like the gates would open, and like it's real busy. If you open at 4, it's going to be busy like that.
Right.
And if you don't let your artists get in.
You want everybody to have some time. If they want to book an appointment straight out of the gate, they can do that as well. So you were talking about the conveniences for the artist. One of the first times I had gotten that personally was going to Europe for the first time. And I think I come back to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you need to get over to Europe.
Yeah.
Like, you need to check. And not every show, obviously. Like, like London, the
London
big
show,
shows are not quite like that. But like, the smaller shows, the first one I ever did in Switzerland was kind of like that, where they made sure that you had tickets to buy food or whatever.
Yeah.
But then my friend's show in Germany, and he took me to one in Austria, and then another one.
Did you get a little spoiled on those ones?
Oh my god!
No, you're right.
Like
the European shows have a different flair, different flavor.
The first time it happened, they were just like, they give you this like ticket, and they're just like, hey, make sure you go to the back room between 6 and 7. And I'm like, why? I'm tattooing, and they're like, no, you have to eat dinner, and I'm like, the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. You're like, I'm gonna eat this cold hot dog and a piece of pizza like I always do.
Exactly. And I remember going to and my friend Andy's like, no, go back there. And I'm like, Andy, I'm in the middle of fucking tattooing. He's like, your guy doesn't mind, go.
Trust me. Yeah.
And I go back there, and this whole fucking spread. I mean, they had a vegan section for people, like crazy. There was beers back there. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
I did 3 shows in a row. Well, I did, first one was Doncaster. And then the other 2 were in Austria and Luxembourg. And those 2 shows were the ones that were like... And that's when
those are the ones you're still remembering.
Oh, fuck yeah. And I'm never going to forget those shows.
Yeah.
That whole trip for me was mind-altering in a sense, because I was away for 3 weeks in Europe, and it was just incredible. Like, everything about it was incredible. People I met. And
that's a refreshing thing. If you can show up to a show and feel the difference and... it goes smooth.
Especially when...
Because I've worked some nightmare shows, too, where... Things aren't there provided, things aren't hooked up.
Yeah, even London. I mean, as amazing as London was, London is insanity. Trying to get set up, find your booth, and then...
So big.
Who you got to talk to.
The old tobacco dogs is giant.
That show was incredible.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, the shows are still... I mean, Mickey's always put on a great show,
Yeah.
But I remember coming back and you taking a little bit of that. There's a lot more more shows doing that now. Because I think you need to do something that's going to separate
stand
you
apart,
from,
man.
Yeah,
that's going to. You need to, and that's one thing I've always tried to do is different events, different acts, different perceptions of the convention, different
the
different
fact that
art
a lot
shows.
of times when you come in, Hell City, it seems it's like you're walking into a proper convention.
Yeah,
almost like a giant shop.
Very visual.
And that's the whole point. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
When you walk in, you're absolutely blown away by the giant banners hanging, all the posters, all the fucking...
Yeah.
The booths look fucking amazing. The fact that it's still in it's a convention center, but it's
in a really
technically in a nice
ballroom.
hotel, in a ballroom, where a lot of times, man, if there's a concrete floor, I want nothing to do with it most of the time. Because it's such a cold... like heartless environment. Not to mention it's filthy.
Yeah.
But like, not to, and having said that, I'm sure there's a wedding that's going on after Hell City. So it's kind of creepy as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but we've been doing this. I mean, shit, we've been tattooing across the world at places like.
But I've tattooed in a variety of different ballrooms and rooms stuff. And one of the things, like when I did Hell City, is I did want like a fancy kind of feel to it. I wanted a luxury to it, and visually, like we're talking about the banners and the signs. To me, tattooing it's a visual business. It's a visual art form. It's like when you come in, I think it should be visual too. It should be visually entertaining.
Right.
The old circus banners that we have and stuff like that give a good, like homage to the tradition of, the freak shows and the circuses.
Yeah. And the way it wasn't an invite show technically, it was, but you had to send in a portfolio. You had to pass.
It's pretty hard to get into Hell City, because we are very adamant about reviewing portfolios or reviewing who you're bringing with you, things like that. So we have a panel of artists that review and kind of
actually decide whether or not they cut the mustard.
Yeah, but when people get into Hell City, and I see this around the country too, with just even awards that people win from Hell City, I've had people setting up, being like, "Hey, DURB, it's been 8 years, bro. I've been trying to get in. thanks for having me.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. I'm like, well, welcome. And usually after you get in once,
I actually had a couple of clients that when I was posting stuff about the show, a couple of them reached out to me. He's like, dude, I've been trying to get into Hell City for 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, sorry.
It's hard, yeah, exactly. Because, you know, it's a very high caliber show.
And that's not a bad thing, dude. I mean, it's better than some of these other shows from people who will not be named that are just taking people's money and making sure they got a booth.
And just selling whatever.
You know,
yeah.
so they're making their money on the front end before the show even opens. And that to me is kind of a bummer.
And I don't do it. I mean, I honestly don't do Hell City for the money. You know, I would have retired years ago if it was all about me. Nowadays, like, no shit, I do it for other people, man. You know, we do make some income and stuff like that, but as far as the spirit of Hell City, I'm doing it at this point. I've done it. You know, it's 22 years.
I remember talking to you
and now
2 years ago, and you were
artists.
talking about like, maybe this year will be the last.
Yeah, you don't know where the finish line is with something, but right now, and my mentality of putting on the show is because so many people are enjoying it. Even the Phoenix show, we're bringing that back. The Phoenix, Hell City, because so many people are enjoying it that I don't feel like I should take it away. You know,
so
it's
that's
not about
the one
me.
thing.
It's about.
I will admit, I fucking hated Phoenix. No offense, but it is entirely too fucking hot.
Yeah, the fucking heat.
And it's
Hell
one of
City,
those
baby.
Yeah, I get that.
You gotta burn the fuck
but
up.
Fuck that, dude. Fat man in fucking Arizona in the middle of August.
You're like, I am not doing this,
dude,
bro.
Not a pretty picture. I did. So I did the first year. And I remember just being like, I am never.
Like, I'm gonna die going from the ballroom to my room.
Dude, I remember the walk. It was like a quarter-mile walk, and it was like 104 degrees.
You're like 5 pounds lighter. Just
yeah.
losing
Oh
sweat.
my god. I mean, granted, I could probably use it. It's not like it's gonna kill me, but Jesus.
No, I've heard that from people. Like,
But
everybody loves the Phoenix show because it's like it's just as
party.
good of a show as Ohio, but it's got this vacation and this like party side to it.
Everybody has said the same thing to me because
But it is hot as hell.
Yeah, I always tell people, I'm like, no. I'm like, no, I can't. It's fucking stupid. No.
Paul's like that too. Paul's like, bro, you have to break my arm to get me to come to Phoenix.
Yeah, dude,
You know,
it's fucking insane. But again, anybody I've ever spoken to has always been, dude, that is just a great fucking.
It's just
time.
a different vibe.
Yeah, the pools and the fucking.
I like it because all the artists, we don't go to the bar. You know, like a lot of shows, we'll go to the bar, go party in rooms and stuff. This is every 200-300 people in a pool.
Right, yeah.
You know, we call it tattoo soup. But
yeah, I was just saying.
But people are swimming and having fun, so it's like a different kind of like an after party.
It is kind of like, so you were slightly involved in some of the earlier Paradise gatherings and stuff like that. And
even down to Muse Inc. Like helping Kat Von D and Corey Danger and all that. Like
so that's one of the things that you've been really vocal on. Not so much vocal, but you've been asked to be vocal. In the sense that when you did Paradise, you were the one working the audience, asking questions.
Yeah, I was one of the hosts. Yeah, you're right. From the
because that was the
original
first
one,
year I got asked to sit up on the panel.
Yeah, and you were up on the panel, and I had to moderate.
And it was nice to have something like that. And then
definitely.
You also did the the World Tattoo Conference with Alex DePasse.
Yeah,
in
Venice. It started in Venice, and I originally did that with Alex DePasse and Gabe. And that opportunity was what later turned into the Venetian Tattoo Gathering.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. You got to take opportunity, because if I didn't go do that and moderate that, you were there for that too.
Yeah.
And I moderated that, and that led into...
Yeah, it's one of those things where I felt like they just need the right person to do so. And they had... I'm not going to mention who did it in London, but I was just like, dude, this is the wrong person for this.
Yeah.
Like, you need somebody who... And not to mention the fact that you're not just a guy who's speaking. You've got a long career. You had a longer career than anybody up on the panel. On top of the fact you're well spoken, and you have something to add not only from the tattoo perspective, but also from the health perspective. That's something you've been pushing a lot too. And this is something like I always ask when people ask me like, well, what do you do? How do your hands hurt? I was like, dude, everything hurts.
Yeah.
So I'm the wrong person to ask.
But
you're someone that someone could talk to and simply go, so what are you doing to stay? How important is it, and what do you do to kind of stay healthy?
That's something I kind of got into. Tattooing, it does take a toll on your body. Any kind of stationary, with us, we're literally disconnecting at our hips. Our lower body's kind of stable, and it's all upper body, spine, shoulders, neck, things like that. So once I started having spine issues, got herniations in my spine, and I literally think I wish I would have tattooed right here, just dipping here.
Never stop, never really move.
But for a long time, I was dipping way back here.
Yeah, you're dipping.
Dipping, so like 8 hours.
And then you got to reach over here for the paper towels, and then the spray bottles are way back here.
So not having anybody kind of before me to put attention on the health, and then the setups and stuff like that of why our backs were hurting,
Right.
why our necks are hurting, and things like that. When I started to develop physical problems for tattooing, I didn't know what it was at first. I was like, ooh, tight muscles. No, I was getting herniations from the bend in my spine, and the twisting on that bend caused a herniation. So at that point, I mean, I got pretty sad, man, because my left leg started going numb. So I got a severe herniation causing paralysis.
Oh, really?
You wouldn't know that with how active I
was
am.
going to say, you're pretty active.
Yeah. So, and I feel staying active is what you have to do. So therefore, I started kind of like bringing in an awareness to tattoo. I started talking about my spine issues and problems I was having from tattooing, you know. And then I started getting a lot of feedback from other people like, hey, DURB, how can I fix this? Or I'm having this pain. So I turned that into what's called longevity of the artist.
Yeah, so it's a couple of different workshops that you had done in a couple of different places.
I turned them into seminars, and I go and I teach it and stuff like that.
And it's nice, too, because it's not like you're telling people to run out and get a, you know, oh, you got to find yourself a chiropractor, you got to do this, you got to do that. No, it's something you can physically do yourself.
Exactly.
Without having to...
It's ways to change your work habits that you're not even recognizing, whether you're dipping across, you know, and things like that. So, and it's not just that, it's the emotional health of the artist. You know,
well,
it's the diet, it's the physical part of it, things like that. But we're talking like the mental side of a tattoo artist too. We absorb a lot of people's stories, energies, you know, and things like that.
I think, you know, that's a really, really good point in the sense that, like, you are really kind of becoming like, it's not like you're like a bartender is very similar, and you can treat it like a bartender does, where it's like that's your guy, you're his shrink for the next 15 minutes while you're serving him drinks, but you get to walk away. Yeah. Exactly. With tattooing, it's a little bit more intense.
There's some wild stuff, definitely. Yeah. But I think it's our job too, as tattoo artists. I mean, we're kind of therapists, man. We do something to people, and it's an interesting thing. It's not a torture device, but it's something that does get certain endorphins and things going in people that make them, you know, talk. Yeah. Because they're there. They know that you don't know them that well, and you don't know their family and their wives and their kids, so they can vent to you a little bit more because they know you don't.
Oh yeah, I've had people tell me stuff that I'm just like, why the fuck are you telling me this?
But it's kind of an honor too to be in such a.
It is and it isn't.
Sometimes
it is a bit weird. It is like sometimes it's just straight up fucking weird. Like some people, because there are some people that really take it. But I don't want to say they take advantage to a degree because they're telling you stuff that. A, they shouldn't be telling you, and then B, you're meant to keep your fucking mouth shut. And they're expecting
you to give an opinion sometimes about it.
And the worst is like, how are you not going to go into the back room and be like, dude, this fucking guy is a freak show, you know?
You know what this motherfucker just said to me?
And that's the thing, you often wonder if people knew how much shit was spoken after the fact, because the fact is we all do it to a degree. I mean, if you're a decent human being, you're not gonna take advantage of those things. You're not going to take shit, you know. But there is a certain amount of shit talking that goes on when you get a couple of guys together.
One thing I noticed more, I don't want to say sob stories, was when all the TV shows came on at first. Yep. And you could tell that the clients are waiting for the artist to be like, "So what's your story?" And they'd be like, "My dog," you know.
Exactly. So, well, that's a big thing. It's like I've had one of my guys has been like, "Whoa, you know what?
Well, too much.
Don't want to hear it." Like, doing the tattoo, don't want to hear. And I'm like, you can't do that. And like, what do you mean you can't do it? I'm like, dude, at this moment, it's not going to kill you to just listen. Yeah. You know what I mean? If it gets heavy, then you can say something. Yeah. But chances are it's never going to get that. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't, but chances are it's not.
I think us tattooers are pretty wise with advice we give people because we deal with so many people.
Yeah, not for nothing.
So we can kind of like offer up.
Yeah, not to mention most tattooers are fucking train wrecks. So it's like to them, it'd be like, you know what I would have done if I were smarter? Do this. Don't do what I do. That's what I always tell people.
Or what's the saying? I'll tell you this. Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always do as I say, don't do as I do. Yeah. You know, do as I say, not as I do. That was advice I got from my mom when I was like 6. Yeah. And it pretty much that carries through on most things. So it does make sense. Oh, for fuck's sake. So with that having been said, like now the educational part, do you have any more plans to do stuff like that, or are you planning on more? Like where are you at now? Like you're pretty much all over. You started True Tubes. Yep. I did want to get into. So you opened Stained Skin.
1994.
And you had Stained Skin from 94 till when did you sell it?
I sold it 2008.
And what was the point behind what?
The point behind that is like I was getting a lot of distractions with the street shop. It was such a busy street shop. I had another one in Newark, Ohio, too. So I sold the one that I had opened up in my original hometown, Newark. And I just had my Columbus shop, the original one. Started in 1994.
I worked in that shop a long time ago.
And sometimes, man, you hit a point where you have a couple other irons in the fire. And I was working on Hell City pretty hard, pretty adamantly about that, with a lot of distractions from the street shop, from babysitting adult artists. It could be, to work at the crack of noon. And I had ideas for products. So, I kind of wanted to just tattoo privately. I wanted to tattoo more. And I wasn't tattooing more because of the distractions from the street shop.
Right.
So when I tattooed privately, not only did I do some of my, largest tattoo projects and most tattooing uninterrupted, it gave me time to, when I was done tattooing, I could turn the light off, didn't have to run shop, and I could switch to working on, Hell City.
Right, exactly.
And that, when I was tattooing privately, I was doing a little private home studio, built a little sterilization room out in my garage area.
Right.
It was real nice, super nice. But I also started developing some of the, True Tubes.
Right.
True Grips.
So True Tube started when?
True Tubes started in 2006, I believe. So 2006, kind of like when I sold the shops and stuff like that. So within a year, I started doing product development. And what I wanted to do is, being an old school artist like ourselves, we had steel tubes.
Right.
I saw all the kids going disposable and using plastic tubes and not scrubbing tubes. I was kind of jealous.
Yeah.
But my old school ass, when I would set up one of the plastic tubes, I'd be like, so much metal on plastic vibration is making my coil machines run differently.
Yeah, I hated using coils with the disposables.
So I was like, I literally sat back and was like, somebody's going to develop something for old school dudes to go disposable.
Right.
Want to work with steel tubes. Nobody did. So I started literally Frankensteining, pulling tips out of normal steel tubes, cutting the tips off of plastic tubes, heating it up, heat sinking it.
Oh, okay.
And then we ran speed tests and sound tests to see if it was running still like a steel tube, because the bend in the needle, the only connection points.
Yeah. Because a lot of times it does. It could the slightest thing of plastic on metal, it changes the entire way things feel.
So being a tattooer made it so I could develop it. I could actually research it.
Right.
If you don't know tattooing, you're not going to be able to.
No,
really
a lot of
develop
times, most of this crap is invented by somebody. Not even invented. It's just molded by somebody who knows nothing about anything. I mean, look at the original. I mean, they're still using the same Cheyenne, the actual tip for their cartridges. It's the weirdest. It's such a huge thing.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's just a lot of wasted plastic.
A lot of plastic. Yeah, exactly. So once I developed that first product, man, and it ran good, we released it. Artists were like, "Holy shit!" These do run, so people were like, I can't tattoo disposable without a True Tube. Then I went on to develop True Grips.
Right, the foam grips.
Yeah, the foam grips, and nobody was doing memory foam.
No, that was that.
People were wrapping with paper towels, which is what gave me the idea of let's develop a nice.
Well, I will admit, I'm one of those guys that I'm not buying foam grips. I'm just gonna take some paper towels, tape it up, and then just wrap that in tape.
But that's kind of like another thing. I was looking at kids working disposable, wanting to develop something like that, and then I saw people working paper towels. I was like, I need something that slides on, something a little more tattooy.
So now, with all this, you keep saying the kids.
The kids. I can say that now, man. I'm over 50.
I get that. But
kids.
Thinking about the next, these new generations of tattooers, because we're well beyond one or two generations now.
Yeah, definitely.
But these new generations of tattooers, personality-wise, much different. And I'd say 90%.
They came into tattooing differently.
Yeah, it came in completely different. Yeah. Do you think the ingenuity part of things, the inventiveness of what you just described that you went through, do you think that might be lost with the new generations that are coming down, and we're just going to be stuck with some?
No, I think the new generation came into tattooing at a revolutionary era of product development. Not just more styles getting developed, but a lot of new products. I think we're in the age of reinvention with tattooing. I think we're still in the age of reinvention. We're still seeing things being reinvented that work better, old ideas reinvented, new styles of tattooing.
Right.
So I think we're still in that era right now. I have recently said that with people saying tattooing's gotten a little slow.
Slow in what way? As
far as people booking, and
that's something I wouldn't mind touching on, because
I've been hearing that a lot lately, and I had somebody go, "What do you think it is?" And I go, "Well, I think tattooing may have been a little exploited recently, not just by artists, but people that haven't sat on their ass for 10 years and tattooed, then you start making money off tattooing, you know? And I think it's been exploited a lot where people see it's cool and it's fashionable now and it's all the athletes have tattoos. So we're seeing a lot of people, with all due respect, exploiting tattooing that had nothing to do with tattooing, or they weren't even an artist before they thought of developing a product for tattooing because they saw the money in it.
Right, yeah.
When I started developing products, it was from an artist standpoint of how I can develop products that will help artists work better.
Right.
From an artist standpoint, you know. So right now they say tattooing's a little slow with appointments. I'm sure you've heard this too.
Dude, I'm fucking feeling it. I mean, but I've noticed it happening for the last, you know, for me, it's probably started 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
And I think it, for me personally, it was generational. It's just, I made my name for myself when I did. Now, you know, people, they're younger people to get tattooed by, and, you know, more, I don't want to say more creative, but they just have, they're the emperor's new shoes.
It's like a new game,
you
know,
exactly.
going on out there. So, but from my perspective, you know, like, tattooing's blown up so much, so quickly. It's so popular. It's literally the fastest growing art form.
Yeah, it's funny. So
and it's one of the oldest art forms. That's the funniest thing.
Well, see, that's the most amazing thing about it, and it is a bitch to see it being exploited. Today, the way it's being exploited, because there are, like, with the amount of, you know, these big corporate conglomerates that are coming in, buying up, you know, companies
and stuff like that. Yeah,
you know, it is a bummer. I'm not begrudging anybody making their money. You know, good for them, but it is kind of a bummer to see where it's going to go, because you can't help but think it's not going to end well.
Yeah, you know, but you're not going to buy a car from me if I don't have a driver's license, or, you know, like, you're not getting your car fixed by me if I'm not a mechanic. Meaning, if I'm making money off that and if I'm selling you a car and I can't even drive one.
Yeah, but dude, how many people are selling?
How many people are selling equipment out there that have never made a tattoo?
Well, that's what I've often said. Like, you know, I've talked to people about buying gear from, like, Amazon or whatever, and my big thing has always been, you know, there is something nice to, and don't get me wrong, I've done it, you know. But I think there's something it's something nice to be said about buying something from somebody who's in the trade that, you know, somebody took the time to actually, whether it be ripping off somebody else's idea or whatever, they are trying to make something that is theirs. But I agree, those waters have gotten very muddy as well, because a lot of these major companies, everything's coming from China anyway. They're just rebranding it, you know, because that's the big thing is branding. You know, they rebrand.
More companies are ripping off a lot of products from other people, like artists that invented stuff, and it's.
I mean, the rotary machines are probably, you know, it was nice when coils were around, because coils were like a piece of art.
Coils are classic.
That's what I'm saying. They're never going to go bad. They're just something you hold on for the rest of your life. And there was the artists, there was the builders, you know, thumbprint all over.
That's a lost art almost. I hate to say it.
You know, I don't know if it's going to be. I think there's a lot of people that are never going to go away from it, and there's still people building. You know,
I guess there's the lost art is people that can actually tune them, fine-tune them, or take them apart, rebuild them.
Yeah, exactly.
Get them to run differently. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the lost art.
I think a lot of times, like, I remember
soldering needles, lost art.
Yeah, that's. But again, it's also right, exactly. But it is
art.
one of those things you don't necessarily, when you think about the amount of time you spent doing those things, sometimes you realize how much money you could have been making had you been creating art, creating tattoos, versus, you know, spending, you know, your early mornings, you know, making needles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But again, the people who used to make their own needles and stuff, they also swore by those needles, and they said, "Fuck what's being made today. Mine were better." You know.
Once you switch over, you're like, "Damn!" Once you start working disposable, or pre-made needles, making needles, man, was one of the most unhealthy moments of my career. Inhaling flux, the acid from all that, man.
Everything about it is terrible.
So to me, that's like, I'm glad I don't have to do that part, but I'm glad I know how.
But you know, if that was still a thing, there'd be a lot less people tattooing nowadays.
I want to do something at Hell City one time. It's like needle soldering contest, machine tuning contest.
That's actually pretty clever.
You know, and it'd probably be like 35 and above that could do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
at this point,
with all due respect,
you might be looking at like 45.
Yeah, right.
Maybe like the one young kid who's actually, you know, who's being brought in. He's only been doing it for 6 months.
Yeah.
But he knows what
and then we're going to bring in the judges. You're going to be Marty Holcomb, Gil Monty, all the old schoolers.
Yeah, they're going to
eye looping your needles.
Yeah, they're going to pull out their glasses and their eye loop.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, dude, it's funny. Like the eye loop thing. A couple of guys at my shop, like, I finally broke the eye loop that I had in my drawer. I dropped it, and the glass broke.
They're not even using them.
Dude, no. And I'm like,
You gotta loop your needles, bro.
Dude, exactly. I mean, granted, I will admit, like, I've been looping my needles since '93. Like, no exaggeration. Literally, every single time I tattoo, I loop my needles.
Magnifying glass right up there.
Yeah,
I have this big magnifying glass.
No, I have a little tiny eye loop. But when I broke this eye loop, I could only get them on Amazon. They were like sets of 10. I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do with 10 eye loops? You know,
Those
I
are
already
like
have
Christmas
like,
gifts for all your
and
artists.
that's exactly what I did. I'm like, take one. They're like, what do you do with that? I'm like,
you do a shot of whiskey,
yeah, exactly.
and then you look at your needles.
I hope you don't like want to blow your eye out. But it is one of those things. Like even looping everything. I mean, dude, it's probably I couldn't even say 1 out of 1,000 needles might be hooked, but it does happen. I just recently, I think I made a post of it on Instagram. I said it's like this is why I loop my thing, and I can't even show you but there was one ding on one of the needles.
I think Ben Shaw just did a little video on that, like still looping needles and how much just one little barb or hook on a needle can like really
just fuck with stuff. And it's one of those things if you're able to pick it up when you're actually working, it's already too late. Yeah, you know.
If you know, it's like this thing's not hitting the skin.
It's
right.
like I don't know what's wrong with this thing. And you open it up, and it's like
it's like come on,
you know. So.
But no, equipment has definitely changed. You know, the availability of equipment, like you said, Amazon and stuff like. There's just a tattooer with a sign that I shared of Mark Longnecker, and it was like. Something like you can buy a scalpel on Amazon, but you're still not a surgeon.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Well, but that's the thing. So I've had conversations with people that are like, "Oh yeah, anybody can buy stuff," and they are, and you know, you've got parents that get their kids, like 13-year-old kids, 14-year-old kids, 15-year-old kids,
that was me.
Marking up their. It's a different day and age, though.
Yeah, you know, true.
When you're
like nowadays, it's like whatever, a tattoo, but like back then when I was a kid, like. I even had one kid sign a release form when I was underage tattooing. His dad got mad because I tattooed him. I had one of my friends run that release form up to the dad's house.
Oh, really?
Never heard anything again, you know.
Yeah, but
But yeah, tattooing kids at that age.
That's fucked.
And then sending them back to their parents.
No, but that's the thing. It's like,
hey, come here, 13-year-old.
Yeah,
man.
once one of these parents finds out and they found out whose basement it was done in, that's going to be some.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yep.
man, that's not
They're
cool.
like, wait, it's the punk rock skateboard kid? All right.
Yeah, right.
That's to be expected. But I never. Through all that, man, you know, something. I think it was just the like my parents shunning it. You know what I'm saying? And people around you. That's what pushed me to want to do it more. You know when your parents tell you no.
Yeah, exactly. And
people are telling you tattoos are stupid. Makes you want to do it more and like prove them wrong. And I'm so glad that I didn't like ever stop tattooing or listen to anybody. And I had my own goals. I had my own views of tattooing.
Right.
That I stuck with it. I never thought that it would give me the life where
I don't think anybody in this trade.
No, man, it's been the wildest life. It's been the best life. Travels.
Yeah, I've never heard somebody be like, "Yeah, dude, I got everything out of this expected."
Yeah,
tattooing. You know, it's like it's not that.
One of the things I always say too is like tattooing has given me so much that I wake up every day to give back to tattooing.
Right.
You know, and that's a big thing. It's like my days revolve around tattooing, whether I'm making tattoos or not. Every time, like when I wake up, emails are all tattooing.
It is one of those things. It is an all-encompassing kind of thing. It's not going to be something that you can really, you know. Kelly Doty was saying, you know, there are people out there that just want to do their one little tattoo and they don't want to. They want to go home and not think about it. She's right. Those people do exist, but for most people, most tattooers, I think that they're just of the opinion that. I want to get good at this. I want to stay good at this.
You're obsessed with it.
Yeah, it isn't very easily to be obsessed,
exactly.
and especially when you've managed to glean so much from it.
Yeah.
Because you just sit back and go, well, I'm going to wait to see what the next thing is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't actively pursue anything, and it all just happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. The first day I worked in a shop, when I knew that I'd made the right choice and stuff like that, and stuck with it since, is going from making like $25 a tattoo to making $600 my first day working in a shop.
Right.
You know, doing multiple tattoos, but still
right.
I never fathomed that it would actually become a career.
And turn into something.
At that point, it was fun. I was making a little bit of money to pay for the inks and stuff like that. But that was a point where I was like, oh shit, I can prove everybody wrong and turn this into an actual career where I'm making more money than they are.
Yeah, right.
Doing something I love and hanging around with cool motherfuckers in shops, dude. Some of the best personalities are the people in the shops.
Yeah, exactly.
There's conversations and stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing. Like I always say, it's like it's changed in the sense that I don't think those characters are as prevalent as they once were.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer.
Well, you know why? Because you go watch.
Well, there is that too. Yeah. There is the bitch of like when you are sitting there and you're talking and you're saying things like, I mean, I've gone to certain shops, you know, where I speak the way I speak, and there might be one person in that shop that's kind of like, well, that's just Joe.
Yeah.
You know, but there's 6 other people in the shop just being like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah,
Like,
that guy just said, what the fuck's up?
yeah, well, but it's one of those things you sit there and it's like, dude, calm the fuck down, dude.
Yeah.
It's just.
But you're right. Nowadays, like, the industry is different. The perception of things are different. The wording, I don't know, just like things that you say, you definitely gotta. You can't have the same locker room talk as we did back in the day.
Well, it's funny. So when you,
it's
I remember the first Hell City, and I don't know if you want to talk about this, but the end of the last day.
Yes,
of the show,
we can talk about this because this is legendary.
So I wasn't there.
Oh, you were there?
I missed the first Hell City.
Okay.
I found out. I I started at the second Hell City. Eric Merrill was at the first one.
Merrill was there,
and he has it on an old phone.
Does he really?
Where he recorded it, and you basically tell the story.
So it was like, I don't know if Eric was one of the guys. Like Oliver Peck was one of the dudes back then that came up to me and they're like, "We got this guy that wants you to like punch him on stage in front of everybody."
And this is the
for
very
money.
last day of the show.
This is the first year of Hell City, so I'm kind of like, bro, that's like lawsuit. Like the Hyatt's going, like, I'm in here punching people. Like I'm, you know. But people were like, Durb's crazy enough. They knew, you know. So they came up and they're like, hey, this guy wants to know if he can get up on stage and you can punch him and he'll make money from him. And I'm kind of like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? And I go, let's do this at the end of the show. You know, I was like,
let's do it on the last.
Sounds crazy,
when
but let's,
people start breaking down.
Yeah, so that's what we did. Is like, let me wait till a lot of the crowd's out, spread the word through the tattooers that Durb's going to punch this guy on stage or whatever. And so, no shit, the guy got on stage. I think $400 or $500 got thrown up there. Like Bob Tyrrell's throwing like $100 bills, and you know, just to watch this dude get
fucking.
So yeah, so Jeff, the announcer, goes, "Okay, everybody, we're gonna count down from like 10, okay?" And then Durb's gonna punch this guy, and he goes, "All right, 10, 9, 8," and I like 8 or 7. I'm just like, "Pow!" And I hit this dude so hard that he like crumbles. Like pretty much knock him out, you know, and then I jump on him in an arm bar.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and I didn't like break his arm or anything, but like he got so much money, and you know, pretty much got knocked out. But legendary story because I still hear about it. You know,
from,
like,
like,
artists that were there, they're like, dude,
it is
crazy.
it is one of those things. I don't think you could pull anything like that off nowadays.
No, nowadays,
like now it's like people. Like they squash fights. I mean, Philadelphia had the reputation back in the day when Eddie was running it.
Rough, yeah.
Where it was every year there was something. They got kicked out of 4 different hotels.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's a wild city.
Philly in general is a wild city, but that convention was no fucking joke.
Yeah,
like, that was something special. I'm glad I was part of it. I don't know if I'd be rushing back out to it.
I forget who came up to me after it. This is Josh Ford, because Josh Ford does MMA too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he's like, how'd you know how to do that arm bar? And I was like,
oh yeah, exactly, yeah.
Farting around. It was before I had trained jiu-jitsu or any of that stuff too.
Nice.
So, and he went on to be like a big MMA fighter and stuff like that.
So you're splitting your time from Columbus, Ohio, and Las Vegas now.
Yeah. So I've been out in Las Vegas about 4 years ago. 4 years ago, we moved out there.
Okay.
I've got my own place out there now, and I tattoo at the Punk Rock Museum, which is an honor to even be a part of it because like. Part of my tattoo roots came from punk rock.
Punk rock, yeah.
So by me being out in Vegas so long and meeting Sean Kama and the crew there, they invited me to like occasionally tattoo. It's not like full time, but I'll do like special events and stuff like that. I'm getting ready to tattoo there on the 25th of this month.
I was gonna say,
Punk
what
Rock
is that?
Bowling.
Nice, okay.
So Punk Rock Bowling's a big.
Oh, Punk Rock Bowling's been going on forever.
Huge,
yeah.
So I'm tattooing that Saturday in the Punk Rock Museum.
Nice.
But then, big news is that we're putting on the world's first ever Punk Rock Tattoo Expo.
So that's what I wanted to ask you about because I saw that pop up on your feed and then I followed it out to a couple of other.
It's about a month after this Hell City.
So how many people are tattooing at that?
We have 10 artists right now.
So
11 actually.
Is it kind of like what Oliver does down in Texas? He does like a. It's like a little.
It's small.
I don't even want to call it an invitational. It's like maybe 12 artists.
Yeah,
but he brings artists from all over, and
that's what we're doing. We got Tokyo Hero, Alexander Fish, Bob Tyrrell.
Oh, that's fucking sweet.
Oliver Peck, Sean Kama, James Peterson. We got Big Island Mike, all kinds of like really badass artists, and we're gonna switch it up. So we're doing another one in November that'll have a whole different lineup.
Different lineup.
Yeah, but it's inside the Punk Rock Museum
How
right
big
there
is
in Las
How big
Vegas.
is the space?
I don't know how many square feet. It's pretty big. There's 2 giant levels.
Oh, really?
And the whole tattoo convention or expo is going to be on the top level.
Nice.
You know, in different cubbies and stuff like that. Downstairs is going to be a couple different punk bands playing, some vendors.
Oh, that's super cool.
Food, you know, things like that. But
I'll put all this stuff down in the description, so
yeah.
I'll have everything up there.
Yeah, so if you go to punkrocktattooexpo.com, you can kind of see what's going on there.
Nice.
But no, it's something new, man. At this point, I've been doing conventions for 22 years. I've done 36 shows, I think, in 22 years between Ohio and Phoenix. So this is an opportunity for me to be involved with the Punk Rock Museum,
Right.
To be on one of the business people behind the expo.
Right.
But they have an amazing team as well, so I don't have to do everything. They got a great team.
So
Sean,
you can just be, if
James.
they need you to point them in the right
Yeah,
direction.
so I'm kind of helping them with artists and writing things,
Nice.
and kind of like some of the ads and little things like that. But it's an honor to work with them and being out in Vegas. So what I do out in Vegas is I tattoo a little bit. I have a little private studio out there too. Probably eventually going to open up another Red Tree gallery, but something smaller.
Right.
I train jiu-jitsu out there and I eat food.
Nice.
That's it, man.
You also hike and four-wheel.
Yeah, and I hike. Yeah, I stay really active.
So that seems to be a big deal for you, like having some kind of thing outside of art and tattooing. And
it is.
So
yeah.
like the jiu-jitsu obviously is a huge.
It's good for my health, my mental and physical health. I think every tattooer, and this is something I teach in my longevity seminars too, is everybody should have an extracurricular activity outside of tattooing, something to separate, to turn a button off for a second so you don't get burnt out or so for me jiu-jitsu is a way to disconnect mentally, physically, because you can't, when you're doing jiu-jitsu and somebody's trying to choke you or you're trying to get out of an arm bar, you can't think about I get my drawing, there's no other problems in the, so it kind of allows me to shut things off, go train, do something healthy for myself, then go home and work my ass off again.
Yeah, and then go right back to what you were doing.
But I teach that in people. I'm before you go home from the studio, because once you get home, you're comfortable. You have a million excuses once you go to the gym or go to a park and go on a walk. Do something to separate, something that's still good for yourself. Because I think as far as tattooers go, we focus on everything but ourselves.
No, most certainly.
We focus on our clients' drawings, our shops, all the other shit in between that you have to have something for yourself.
Right.
And I've always kind of been a big proponent of that. And for me, jiu-jitsu's that.
Nice.
Not the injuries. The injuries aren't fun. I've had multiple surgeries.
Yeah, no, dude, I don't get that. The whole, I will admit, I think it's insane.
The
amount of,
at 51.
I know, not only that, I know so many people have been injured.
Jimmy?
Yeah, Jimmy
Had a spiral fracture from a heel hook or something.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's dangerous, very, very dangerous stuff. Mentioning Jimmy and Fudd and all those guys, a lot of tattooers are getting into jiu-jitsu.
Oh, most certainly, yeah.
One, it's not as striking, so you're not messing your hands up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, tattooing, the stationary aspect of it's not good for you. It's like a truck driver, kind of. So I think having some kind of thing like that for tattooers.
To keep moving and just
keep
flex
moving.
pretty much.
Stretch. And tattooing's jiu-jitsu, once you get into it, it's scary before you go in, but once you're in there, it's you're part of the club.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just kind of fall in love with it.
It seems like most of the people that are into jiu-jitsu are just that. They're all about it. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get addicted to it. Yeah. Kind of like tattooing, when you first start tattooing, that's all you talk about, think about everything. It'll drive you mad. Jiu-jitsu's the same way.
Nice.
Nice. But
so Red Tree is in Columbus.
Yep.
And how many artists do you have here?
Right here we got, including myself, 11 artists.
11 artists.
Yep.
And you guys are pretty much, everybody's appointment only.
Yeah, it's appointment only. It's consultation only as well. We're Ohio's largest premier consultation only, appointment only studio, and it's huge. We got 2 levels here. You've walked through the whole facility.
I was going to say, so you also share the building with True
Tattoo Supply, and we store the Hell City Tattoo Festival stuff. So we got a huge warehouse, huge tattoo studio.
Nice.
I started Red Tree, I think 12 years ago.
It's been that long.
It's been a while, yeah. Wow, down in Italian Village originally, and it was in this kind of sketchy little area at first. It's all developed now.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say Columbus has changed dramatically.
Yeah, and the area we're in now, it's not super developed, but it's getting ready to do major development and stuff like that. But I really like being here. I like being in Vegas as well. The changing of tides.
Yeah, we were talking about getting older and not wanting to deal with winters.
Yeah, man, getting out of winter and stuff like that. That's been one of the nice things too, is not have to deal with snow and stuff like that too. So, and then when I open up shop, I'm gonna get you down there. I'm gonna start getting friends come out there. You hate the heat.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll drive you to the house.
When
to the
Jimmy was out there,
AC.
I would visit Jimmy like a couple times a year in Vegas. But I also liked when he was in Detroit. It's just so. The only place he hasn't been being able to get me to go visit him has been in fucking Florida.
You haven't been down there yet?
Florida, I hate Florida.
No, I visited him down in Florida.
Yeah, I went. Yeah. I've been down there once to see him. That was about it.
Okay,
so.
yeah.
And I told him I'd make a trip to just hang for a week. So
yeah.
Last time was like passing through. So I gotta represent.
Well, we're gonna see him. When's the last time you saw Jimmy?
He was up at the shop. We did a flash walk-in day back in April, I think it was. No, March.
Oh, okay.
So him, Tom Strom, Jackie Sandylands, they all came out and just worked with us and stuff. So it was fun. It was a blast. It was a blast. So, but yeah, it'll be good to see him tomorrow, definitely.
Yeah, I can't wait. So. Is he gonna be in town tomorrow?
No. Tomorrow's Wednesday. He'll be back on. He'll be here on Thursday. So.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the show. We work hard as hell every year. My team. Yeah, we just.
Oh, dude, I'm super looking forward.
Work diligently.
Like I said, I haven't worked the show in a few years. I was here 2 years ago just to check it out. It was your 20th anniversary, I think.
Yeah,
I came down for it.
That's
But
crazy.
yeah, I haven't worked it in a while, so I'm looking forward to it.
I think we're one of the longest running conventions in America right now.
Yeah, I think like when you look at it from a perspective, like I think Richmond's been going on for a long time, but it's different
I think
runners
Mario's
now.
show.
Yeah, Mario's show's been going on since 2000. Since
Schenectady,
Falls.
I think Schenectady.
Since Falls.
Yeah.
Schenectady has been fucking
That's been
forever.
going on
Yeah,
forever. That's probably one of the oldest ones.
Yeah, that's definitely one
the
of
Philly
those.
shows.
But they're also not. I mean, certain shows have a. It's not only it's not just the time in. It's also the lineage. It's also what it brought to the table and is still bringing to the table, which is like the most important part.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. I think people need to keep things exciting. If conventions keep changing, keep the high caliber.
Yeah, exactly. High
good.
caliber. Keep the people that are coming through the door that aren't getting tattooed entertained.
Yeah.
And just make it fun for everybody.
Yeah, that's what we're looking to do this weekend, man. We got new acts every day. Badass. We got more booths at this Ohio show than ever because we moved the fine art gallery and the wet paint into their own room, so we've been able to expand that.
The whole thing.
Yeah, that's our third ballroom. So we have 3 ballrooms and all these like special events rooms and stuff. So this year we're looking to bring the Hellions, the largest Hell City we've done yet.
Nice. With
all new acts every day. So there's a lot of all free presentations and seminars. So no paid seminars at all, just all free.
Oh, that's super.
That's
cool.
with your admission, you get free seminars.
Oh,
they're
sweet.
1 hour presentations.
Nice.
So they're not like 5 hour seminars. Because I think, in my opinion, now some of the seminars have kind of like died down because there's so much that people want to go do that they don't want to sit for.
Well,
5 to 6
that's a big
hours.
deal. I think even when they did the Paradise gatherings, there'd be 3 seminars going on at the same time, and if like you wanted to do more than one, you were limited to 1 or 2 a day.
Yeah.
So a lot of people had a hard time like getting into everything they wanted to do.
Yeah. So this year, with us making them, free to go in and not expecting people to go in for 4 hours, we're just giving nice little presentations.
Yeah,
a lot of cool stuff. Every year, I try to think of like, okay, how can we do something different that nobody's done yet, or bring something new that we haven't done yet, and a lot of it's going to be this year.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah,
excited for
same here, man. It's good to have you back too.
Yeah.
You're one of the OGs of Hell City,
Jesus,
man.
Whatever. Old.
Wait, we're both OGs now. What the hell's going on?
Just old.
We're in our 50s now. What the hell? It's been good though.
Christ.
Like, I'm not joking, man. I could die tomorrow. Not that I want to, and be happy. You know why? Because of tattooing.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say
Bottom
there's very few things that I regret, and a lot of it revolves around this business because these are opportunities I would have never had otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's the God's honest truth.
Yep, exactly.
So. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about or you want to get out there? Or?
Yeah, if you guys want to check out kind of like what I'm doing, all my shops and stuff, my personal website is DURBMorison.com. If you want to check out Red Tree Tattoo Gallery here in Columbus, Ohio, it's at redtreetattoo.com. Hell City's hellcity.com, and then TrueTattooSupply.com.
And I will have everything in the description underneath this. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Always good, man. It's always good talking to you.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Like and subscribe. You can hit and record that.